Welcome to another episode of the Cultured Pull List. This week we're going to be talking about the biggest comic series that are starting and coming out this summer, the next couple months, July and August. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into the biggest comic series of summer 2024. Welcome, everyone, to the Cultured Pull List, part of the Cultured Universe Podcast Network. As usual, I am your host, Mike, and this is coming out a couple days late. Yes, also another schedule change. We're not going to be having a episode uploading this coming week for the holiday for July 4th, but the week after, we will be talking about Spider-Man Reign, which is timely because Spider Man Reign 2 is coming out this summer. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the episode, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to preface this. This is just all of the big comic series that are coming out this summer that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, this isn't a completely exhaustive list. There is going to be some that I missed, but these seem to be I kind of curated the biggest ones, both like the ones that I'm excited for, but also just the ones that seem like the most important, I guess. There are going to be a lot of X-Men books because Marvel is relaunching basically all their X-Men series after the whole Krakoan era. So there's going to be a lot of those series on here. I think I got pretty much all of them. Also, there's going to be some Elseworlds on here as well. DC's kind of been spreading the Elseworlds out because some are going to be coming out this fall, but there are one or two or maybe three that are coming out this summer. So I'll talk about those. But yeah, before we get into the new series, I did want to bring up a couple series that are running through this summer that started a month or two ago. First of all, we have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age. This is a sequel to Gotham by Gaslight, as you probably could have guessed. By the way, I did cover Gotham by Gaslight last episode, so check that out if you want. But this is a really interesting sequel so far. This is by Andy Diggle with art by Leonardo Fernandez. Really interesting so far. Kind of what I wanted the original Batman Gotham by Gaslight to be. It's really exploring more the like Victorian steampunk kind of feel to it, and I've really enjoyed that so far. It's only been one issue, but I look forward to the rest, and I would definitely suggest checking that out if you're interested. The other big comic series that Marvel's been putting out last month or so has been Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt number 4 just came out last Wednesday. It's been a really interesting horror-esque, obviously vampire-driven story. It's been kind of spread across a bunch of different comic series, and it's mostly involving the Avengers characters, the Moon Knight characters, and it's written by Jed McKay, so pretty much every like world he's been writing lately is involved in this whole blood hunt thing. It's been really interesting. Number 5 is coming out in July, and that's going to wrap things up. But there's been a lot of spin or like tie-ins and spin-off series of a bunch of different characters. I'll be honest, it seems a bit excessive. Like there's been like almost every character. I mean, even Jubilee has a spin-off for some reason. But at the same time, they do like Marvel and DC does this for every big event. They always have a bunch of spin-off and tie-in issues. So far, I've only really been reading the Spider-Man Blood Hunt and the Black Panther Blood Hunt spin-off series, which are pretty good. Especially the Black Panther one. That one really seems to tie in the most to the main Blood Hunt storyline. But enough of the current series that are running. Let's talk about some new series that are coming out. So, first off, the big summer like blockbuster event that DC has been promoting lately is Absolute Power. It's really been the DC universe has really been snowballing to this point since Dark Crisis, where they introduced the Amanda Waller seemed to be like the big upcoming villain, and she's had her hand in a lot of stuff, including the Titans Beast World storyline. She really had a huge hand to play in that. But this is gonna combine kind of what's been going on in the Batman and Superman series going on. It's kind of the House of Brainiac and Failsafe arcs both kind of lead into this Absolute Power series. So, Absolute Power number one is coming out on July 3rd, and it's going to be written by Mark Waid and having art by Dan Mora. And I think there's going to be 4 issues to this series, but there's going to be, as usual, plenty of spin offs and tie in issues and all that. And all of the current DC runs like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman are going to tie into this big story arc. Next, we have Spider Man Reign 2. This is obviously a sequel to Spider Man Reign that came out in the mid 2010s, or the mid 2000s, that is. And it's like a post apocalyptic, not quite post apocalyptic, but a dystopian future where Spider Man's old and a lot of stuff in the world is kind of gone to shit. It's a very bleak universe, but this is it seems pretty interesting. We're gonna be, like I said earlier, we're gonna be talking about the original Rain in a couple weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that. But what's interesting about this sequel is it's going to show what's happened to Miles Morales in this universe, and there's also going to be a new Black Cat. It sounds pretty interesting. Like the original Rain, it's written and illustrated by Carr Andrews. So that should be interesting if you liked the original Rain. Definitely check this out. This comes out July 3rd, so this coming Wednesday. Next, we have a Star Wars book, really the only Star Wars series on this list. Star Wars Inquisitors. And I think what's interesting about this book is obviously it focuses on the Inquisitors, and it seems like the newest Star Wars series, if I'm not mistaken. And really, this is going to focus on the Inquisitors and Darth Vader tracking down this Jedi named Tensu Run. This character is created specifically for this series, and it seems like the Empire is kind of afraid of him for some reason. So I guess that's going to be the mystery of this book. But I really think the Inquisitors are cool, so this book does interest me. This is a series seems interesting. So if you're into Star Wars and into the Inquisitors, definitely check out this series coming in July 3rd, just like the last 2 books. So this Wednesday, pretty close. Next, we have X-Men, new relaunched X-Men series after the Krakoan era. This is the first of the X books to come out this summer, and this is really just kind of the reformed X-Men team. They now have a base in Alaska, and the main members are Cyclops, who is the leader as usual, but it's also going to include Beast, Magneto, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, Magic, and Juggernaut, which is pretty interesting. It's gonna have this is gonna be written by Jed MacKay, who's been writing Blood Hunt and Avengers and a bunch of other stuff, with art by Ryan Stegman. I haven't really seen Ryan Stegman do a big like flagship book in a while, so that'll be kind of cool. I really enjoy his art, so I'm looking forward to this series for sure. And this is coming out on July 10th. So next we have Dark Knights of Steel All Winter. This is a sequel to Dark Knights of Steel that came out a couple years ago, written by Tom Taylor. This is an Elseworlds story. It takes place in, as you might have guessed, in medieval times. This what's interesting about this book is Deathstroke is going to be the main villain. It seems like he is kind of like got a barbarian style thing going on, and he's going to be attacking the main heroes of the story. So this could be really interesting. Honestly, I haven't read Dark Knights of Steel, but from what I've read, it seems pretty interesting. So I'll definitely have to go back and read it in preparation for this because this does look pretty cool. I really like Deathstroke in the main universe, and he looks pretty cool in this Elseworld story. So I'm definitely pretty interested in this. So next book we have, oh yeah, that's coming out on July 17th. Now, the next book, the next series is Daredevil Woman Without Fear. This is a new series focusing on Elektra. now going by the moniker of Daredevil. And this is supposed to take place right after the events of Daredevil 11, which, funnily enough, hasn't even come out yet, but apparently there's some big stuff that's supposed to happen in that issue. But yeah, so there isn't a whole lot of information on this series yet, but obviously it's going to be focusing on Elektra, and I've really been enjoying Elektra as Daredevil and just all the new Daredevil stuff that's been going on. So I'm definitely going to be checking out that book. That is written by Erica Schultz and Michael Dowling, and it releases on July 17th, or the first issue comes out on July 17th. I realized I did not go and say who is writing Dark Knights of Steel all winter. Jay Kristoff is the writer, and the artist is Terso. So next book is another X book. This is Phoenix, and this is going to be written by Stephanie Phillips and Alessandro Maricolo. This comes out on July 17th, and this is going to focus on Jean. Now with the power of the Phoenix Force, just kind of is going to be cosmic in scope, and it's basically her going around, helping different, going on a bunch of space adventures, kind of. I guess the first arc is gonna focus on an SOS from Nova. She's gonna help him out, and that's gonna spark some adventure. But that actually does sound interesting. Haven't seen a Phoenix book in a while. I mean, maybe I missed it, but so that should be interesting. The next one is also an X book. It's Nyx, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Francesco Martirino. This is coming out on July 24th. I haven't really read any other Nyx books, but I know Nyx has been around. Like the first series came out in like 2006 or something. But this is going to focus primarily on Ms. Marvel, Laura Kinney, and a few other runaway mutants. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested, if you've enjoyed Nyx in the past or interested in those characters, definitely check that book out. Wow, another X book is up next. A newly relaunched X Force that is coming out on July 31st with art by Marcus Two and written by Jeffrey Thorne. And this version of the X Force is going to be led by Forge, and it's going to include Rachel Summers, Psylocke, Sage, Surge, and a new character called Tank. And apparently, each mission they're basically going to recruit a special operative. And in the first issue, their first recruit is Deadpool, so that should be pretty fun. I'm not like super into X Force, but that actually does sound pretty interesting, so I might check that one out. Wow, another X book, man. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of X books coming out this summer. So the next one is going to be Uncanny X-Men. This is premiering on August 7th and written by Gail Simone with art by David Marquez. And this is more of a like off the books ragtag team of the X-Men. It includes Rogue, Gambit, Jubilee, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler. And it's basically them just kind of, reacting to the fallout of the whole Krakoan era. And now they're kind of wandering at this point. And there is this malignant power that's hunting mutants that they're going to have to fight. So that honestly, this is the X book I'm most looking forward to. I think mainly because of the characters, like are some of my favorite X-Men, like Rogue and Gambit are in this, and Nightcrawler and Wolverine. They're two of my favorites. And Jubilee, honestly, like I used to not like Jubilee. I thought her powers were kind of lame and everything, but kind of going back and rewatching the animated series and watching X-Men 97, she's actually a pretty cool character. And I've seen a preview of this book, and she seems like her powers are like going to be expanding and growing and becoming a little cooler. So that should be interesting as well. So yeah, I'm definitely most looking forward to this X-Men book out of all of them. Now, the next book is another Marvel series. This is going to be Venom War. This is like a big event series that's going to be spanning a bunch of different series, including like Daredevil, Wolverine, Deadpool, Spider Man. And it's written by Al Ewing with art by Iban Coelho. This is also coming out on August 7th. And this is basically a war between Eddie Brock and his son, Dylan. Now, if you've been reading the Venom run that's been going on the last like year or two, Venom Eddie Brock died and then he came back and it's a bunch of crap, like a bunch of really crazy shit happened to him. And while that was going on, his son Dylan bonded with Venom. So I guess they're basically going to war to see who the real Venom is. I'm not 100% sure why as of yet. I haven't been super up to date with all the Venom books, so I'm sure they're going to explain why they're going to war in this. But this does look really cool, mainly because of all of the symbiotes that are involved. I think the symbiotes are some of the coolest Marvel like characters, and just like this the fact that there's so many different symbiotes and so many different characters that have bonded with symbiotes, like even Black Widow has a symbiote now. It's just very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to this series, honestly. I think it's like 4 or 5 issues for the main Venom War, but then, like I said, there's going to be a lot of other spin-offs and tie-ins that are going to be happening, but those don't premiere until September, I believe. But yeah, if you're a Venom fan, definitely be on the lookout for Venom War. Now, on August 14th, DC versus Vampires World War V is going to be launching. This is going to be written by Matthew Rosenberg with art by Otto Schmidt. And this is a sequel to DC versus Vampires, a miniseries that came out a couple years ago. This is part of the Elseworlds brand. This is a separate universe. And I don't really know a whole lot about the original book, but this is basically going to be Green Arrow, like leading a team of heroes against Barbara Gordon, who's like the leader of the vampires, and Damian Wayne has his own stuff going on. It's going to be this big battle, and yeah, it's like it seems interesting. I guess I'm not as hyped for this, to be honest. But yeah, if you're into vampires or if you enjoy DC versus vampires, definitely check that one out. Next, we have yet another X book, X Factor. This is going to be releasing on August 14th, written by Mark Russell with art by Robert Quinn. Now, this version of the X Force seems like it's going to be a government-sponsored team of mutants, which should be interesting, to be honest. I don't know if they've ever actually done that quite like this before in the comics, having a government X-Men team, basically. So definitely, if you're into the X-Men, definitely keep your eye out for that. Now, the next one is Chasm Curse of Cain. This is coming out or premiering on August 28th. And this is obviously going to be, focusing on Spider Man's two clones, Cain and Ben Riley. If you haven't been keeping up with Ben Riley, he's turned into Chasm recently, achieved some new powers, but he's also been a villain for the most part, though in the recent Amazing Spider Man books, he's been a little more heroic trying to help Peter, but I think he is incredibly badass just looking at him. But then, like, all this, his new powers are very cool as well. I've also thought Cain is an incredibly badass character. So this book honestly seems really, really, really cool to me. I'm very excited, and it seems like Cain is looking for Ben in the series, and I guess trying to bring him back into being a heroic figure, but no idea if it's going to work or not. But this is actually written by Steve Fox, who wrote the recent Spider-Man or Spider-Woman issues, Spider issue run, as well as the X-Men 97 prequel comic. And I actually got to meet him last month in May, and he seems pretty cool. He signed my X-Men 97 books, so I'm really looking forward to this. He seems really cool. I like his writing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Cain and Chasm together in the same book. So that looks pretty cool. So only a couple more books, a couple more series. And these last two seem like they're sequels, or at least they're in the same universe, I think, as the whole Predator Aliens thing that's going on, which I don't think is part of the main Marvel universe. I'm not super clear on that, but I think it's kind of like an Elseworld situation. But the first one is a sequel to Predator versus Wolverine, which came out last year. This is Predator versus Black Panther. And like Predator versus Wolverine, this is written by Benjamin Percy with art by Chris Allen. This first issue is releasing on August 21st. And obviously, from the title, this is going to be Predator versus Wolverine versus Black Panther. And it seems like a young Predator trying to prove himself is going to travel to Wakanda to try and steal some vibranium. And obviously, he's going to come into contact with T'Challa and they're gonna fight. So yeah, if you're into Predator, if you're into Black, like I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's gonna be a fight between Predator versus Black Panther. Seems pretty badass to me, if I'm being honest. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for that if you want to see a badass Predator versus Black Panther fight. And the last one here, the last series I'm going to talk about is Aliens versus Avengers. And this is going to be premiering on August 28th. And this is actually going to be written by Jonathan Hickman. So you know it's going to be good. He's written some of the best books in the last several years. So this is going to be a good one. I'm not 100% sure if this is in the same universe as Predator versus Wolverine and Predator versus Black Panther. I haven't read them and I'm not really clear on that, but this does look very cool. The art's going to be by Assad Ribic. I'm not really sure. I'm not really familiar with him, but the art from the cover looks pretty cool. But obviously, this is going to be xenomorphs reaching Earth, and the Avengers are fighting them. There's not a whole lot else. You really got to go into more detail there, but this is going to come out on August 28th. And it looks pretty cool. I mean, I'm not. I mean, honestly, just Jonathan Hickman himself being the writer intrigues me. But then aliens fighting the Avengers sounds pretty badass as well. So there are a lot of really cool series that are coming out this summer. I mean, there's obviously some more that are coming out, but I just wanted to hit the highlights here. It's really a good time to be an X-Men fan because they're relaunching all the X books, and pretty much all of them look really cool. I will say I'm mostly looking forward to the new X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. I think mainly because they're kind of like they seem like the flagship um, comic series. Now there is another X-Men series, Exceptional X-Men, coming out, but that's going to be coming out in September. That's why I didn't include it in here. But yeah, there are a lot of really cool X books. Like I said, most of the X-Men ones I'm looking forward to, but X Factor looks pretty cool too. I'm also very much looking forward to Venom War. That looks very cool. I love all the symbiote stuff. And Chasm versus Kane looks badass as hell. I mean, Marvel seems like they're really dominating this year. I mean, there aren't that many. Like, there are some Elseworlds books coming out from DC that sound interesting, but don't. I'm honestly not even close to as excited to them as I am for the new Marvel. A lot of the new Marvel stuff. I mean, I am very looking forward to the continuation of Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age. That looks really cool. And I am looking forward to Absolute Power. That looks pretty cool. But I think honestly, if I had to choose like three series I'm most looking forward to, it would definitely have to be Chasm Curse of Kane. I'd say Uncanny X Men, and I don't know. That's really hard. Probably either Venom War or X-Men, I guess. It's kind of hard to choose, but yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments which series you're most looking forward to. Let me know if there are any series that you're really excited for that I missed. This is a bit of a shorter episode because, I'm not really covering a book, but we are going to close this out with my cultured picks as normal, as usual. So first off, I want to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man number 6. If you haven't been reading this series, you definitely should. This is a really, really good series. This is one of the best from Marvel, I think, in recent memory. But this, there are gonna be some mild spoilers here, so just so you know. But this book shows, obviously, from the cover, you see Kingpin and Spider-Man fighting. But in this universe, Green Goblin, who is Harry Osborn, is actually a vigilante. He's actually a good guy, and he's been teaming up with Peter. So they face Kingpin together, and Kingpin's kind of the main overarching bad guy in the series. So this is kind of their first direct altercation with him, and it's just been very good, very cool. It's very interesting seeing a like mid 30s Peter with a wife and kids dealing with becoming Spider-Man for the first time. We've seen him a little older in the comics before, but seeing him basically learning to crawl, uh, at that age in his mid 30s is pretty interesting. And my next cultured pick is Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age. Mentioned it earlier, but it's very cool. I mean, it's only been one issue so far, but just from the first issue, I really dig the vibe. They're adding a lot more characters from the comics, into this steampunk Victorian world. which is really what I wanted to see in the original Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which I was kind of disappointed there wasn't more. So it seems like this is going to be kind of more what I was hoping for in the original Gotham by Gaslight. I hope it turns out to be as good as I'm hoping it is. It's really interesting so far. And my last book I wanted to talk about is the Batman First Night issue 3. This is actually the final issue of the 3-book miniseries. And this has been really, really cool. This book, if you haven't really heard of it, it goes back to the 1930s, 1938 or 39, when Batman was first introduced in the comics. It basically goes back to that era and puts Batman there, like in 1939, acting as if Batman, what was around then. And it's very interesting. It's a really good period piece. The way the art's drawn and the way Dan Jurgens writes the dialogue really feels like it's back in the 1930s. It's very well done, and I think it really kind of explores Batman, even though it doesn't have to. It could have just been like, oh, this is Batman in the 1930s, but it really does kind of try and go into his moral code and psyche and stuff, and it makes him kind of struggle with stuff. I will say, like with the whole like no gun, like it does explore the no guns like rule or whatever that Batman has more than most of main Batman comics do. I will say it gets a little bit like forced in some areas, but I did like that Bruce kind of struggled with the morality of it, and like how it'd be so much easier to protect himself with a gun, that kind of thing. I think it like delves more into the psychology of why he has that rule more so than the main Batman comics do. So I did appreciate that. I thought that was interesting, but just the whole world that they built was really cool. And they made, they designed Batman's suit to look exactly like the Batman suit, the original Batman suit from the 30s. Yeah, like it's basically going back to those 1930s comics and rewriting that history, kind of. Besides, they aren't, it's kind of interesting because in those comics, Batman wasn't really that adverse to killing or using guns all the time. It hadn't been established that like those are his part of his code yet. So to kind of go back to that time and have Batman have more of the code we're used to him having was kind of an interesting thing to do as well. It's interesting to explore. So if you have not read that mini series, I would definitely suggest doing so. It was very good. I really enjoyed it, so definitely check that out. But yeah, that is the episode for this week. Thanks so much for joining me. And like I said earlier, there's not going to be an episode this coming week, but the week after July 12th, there will be an episode on Spider Man Reign, so definitely stay tuned for that. If you'd like to support us on Patreon so we can keep bringing you more great content, check us out on patreon.com/theculturednerd and look for the Cultured Pull List specific tier. Thank you to all the current Patreon supporters of the Cultured Nerd: Wesley H., Mitch S., Connor Y., Anna M., Oscar B., Craig L., and Salib K. I have been your host, Michael Malillo, and our logo and visual assets were designed by Jose Navarro, and our intro was designed by myself. Thank you once again for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe and share if you liked this episode. And check out all of our other episodes. We've got plenty for you to watch. If you want to check out the Cultured Nerd or the Cultured Pull List on social media, there will be a link down below. But if you're watching at home, you can scan the QR code on the bottom left. And if you would like to check out Casual Experts, which is me and my normal co-host, Luke's other brand, where we just talk about pop culture, movies, TV, all that kind of stuff on our podcast and our social media. You can check that out by scanning the QR code on the bottom right.